In my perfect world, everybody would start here. Like this would be a welcome message of sorts for you as you've just joined this club that, granted, nobody wants to be a part of it. But if you need to be a part of it, just hello. Welcome to this massive group of us, literally hundreds of millions of people who have gone through this or are currently going through this. This is your orientation of sorts that I would hope that everyone would get at the beginning of their chronic symptom syndrome journey. And speeding to the end a little bit, but you'll find many people find that what your specific syndrome diagnosis is doesn't end up mattering so much in figuring out your path to recovery. So we welcome all sorts of chronic symptom syndrome conditions here because we find that we have way more in common than we have different. And what I'm going to do with this orientation of sorts is compile what decades of research have shown us, what my own 10 years of living with ME/CFS showed me, what the hundreds of recovery interviews I've done have taught me, and all of the expert interviews that I've done, and the medical conferences that I go to, and the likely thousands of hours that I've spent reading and listening to everything I can get my hands on this topic, and put it together for you here as a sort of like quick start guide. Like, let's get you going on the right path from the start. What you need to know, what you should avoid, and what the fastest, best, most effective, cheapest, simplest, least stressful, least lonely path out of this is. And know that if this isn't the start of your journey, know that that also puts you in the norm of what most people go through. Most people go through years, maybe decades before finding the way to the information that they need. So even if this isn't the start of your journey, if you've just found this or someone has just sent you to this orientation now, better late than never. And maybe you're even a recovery pro by now, maybe even fully recovered or almost there. This is just some further validation that you are on the right track and maybe some helpful ways to help you even better explain it to all the people in your life that still don't fully get this. But before we dive in, I have a favor to ask you. The percentage of viewers who subscribe keeps dropping. And I'll admit myself, I even noticed that I'm subscribing to things less and less. And recently I have stopped that and turned it around because it might not seem like a big deal, but it's the best way that you can support hosts like me and help what I do continue to be sustainable. It helps me to get sponsorships, it helps me to support my team, it helps me to get the biggest best possible videos and interviews out to you. And it helps ensure that you get notified when new things come out so you don't miss something that might be helpful for you. So if you haven't already subscribed, I ask you to consider doing so. Just take a moment, tap that subscribe button, make us official, help me, help you. And if you change your mind, you can always just unsubscribe. So thank you. And now back to our video. So you might be thinking right now, like, how do I know what you need? How could I possibly know what your orientation of sorts is at this specific point of your unique journey? And you might even be tempted to skip this orientation, thinking this is a waste of time. This is not what I need to know right now. Here's what I do know, and what unfortunately, literally millions of other people also unfortunately know, is that if you do skip this, I'm pretty sure I can tell you right now how this is going to go for you from here. And if you are going to skip this, do yourself a favor and just bookmark it. Because I can guarantee you there is a very specific point farther down your journey where you're going to very much want to come back to this and be very interested in seeing this. So if you are thinking about skipping this, just hang on with me for 1 minute and just let me know how much of this sounds right. Or if you, like the many people out there who were never sent to an orientation, tell me how much of this resonates from the journey that you've been through. So you were probably plugging along in life, full speed ahead, when all of a sudden, bam, like seemingly out of nowhere, you were suddenly very sick. I mean, it might have come on a little bit gradually, or it might have hit you really hard and all at once. There are a variety of things that could have set this off, but whatever it was, you now find that you struggle to do everything that used to come fairly easy to you, like going to work and socializing and exercising and having hobbies and traveling. All of these things are now all of a sudden inexplicably extremely challenging, if not outright impossible. And then, like any person would, you then went to see your doctor, you got a bunch of tests done, and all those tests came back normal, which made zero sense because you can't think of a time in your life when you've felt this horrible. How on earth can nothing be showing up? But according to the doctors, despite your complete inability pretty much to function, you are actually fine. So this is where you are. And if you skip this at orientation, I have a pretty good idea of what's next for you. So since you know right now that you are anything but fine, you're going to keep going to more doctors, right? Because it is their job to fix this. Like, this can't possibly be on you. Like, you didn't go to medical school. Some doctor out there somewhere is going to have to figure this out. But it doesn't take long before you start to sense that the doctors that you're seeing are almost a little bit frustrated that you keep coming back because you've done the tests, they've come back normal, they've told you you are fine, and yet here you are again. So eventually, a doctor will likely give you some sort of syndrome diagnosis, like you have chronic fatigue syndrome or post viral syndrome or long COVID. And for a very short amount of time, like for a second, you are really excited. You're like, okay, this is something. There's a name for this. Thank goodness. Something for me to tell people, something for me to research. It's got to have some sort of path forward, right? But that honeymoon phase passes heartbreakingly fast, and you are sent away from that doctor's office with this diagnosis without so much as a pamphlet guiding you on what to do next. The official course of treatment, regardless of whatever your chronic symptom syndrome diagnosis is that you must learn to live with this. And you're thinking, what? Like, how do I learn to live with this? I'm barely functioning. And this came out of nowhere. There's no way I can live the rest of my life like this. So you are feeling likely abandoned and overwhelmed and terrified and frustrated and angry and probably a bit depressed and a little bit more and more hopeless as you think about, like, what's ahead? What's ahead for me in my life? And then somehow from this place, likely the worst place you've ever been in your entire life, despite the medical professionals having no clue how to fix you, you have to figure out how to do it yourself. You're probably feeling pretty alone in this, and like no one in the world, definitely no one in your immediate life understands what you're going through. And these likely well meaning doctors have left you to fend for yourself. And you are still anything but fine. So you, of course, do the next logical thing that people do, which is you start Googling, which leads you into the big Wild West world of alternative healthcare. And maybe this is a world that you've dabbled in before, or maybe not. But either way, now things that you might have used to be a bit judgy about or outright dismiss as complete woo woo now become your entire world. And you start with dipping your toe in on the milder end of like, oh, I'm not so sure about this, but there might be something to it. And then when you exhaust all of those things and they don't work, then you move fully into that section of things that you're like, wow, this really can't be real. But one person on the internet said that it worked for them. So I'm going to try it. And you try all of them too. So you probably start with things like acupuncture or homeopathy, do some energy healing, perhaps do some cleanses, do some detoxing, maybe fill your home with some healing crystals. Like, that can't possibly hurt, right? And then the next thing you know, you're doing sound healing with vegetables and paying $200 online for unicorn essence drops. And then you get your first angel feather alignment. And when that doesn't work, you try your first fecal transplant because maybe someone else's poop being inside you is the answer. Maybe you've just had the wrong poop all this time. And when that doesn't work, you get purposely stung by multiple bees because one person online said that helped them. And then that somehow doesn't work. Despite barely being able to get out of bed, you somehow find the energy to make your way to a jungle in Thailand and have a shaman rub frog poison all over you. And all the while doing all of these things, you change your entire diet to something so strict that it takes superhuman self control to possibly stick to it. And then you fully, completely change that diet 7 more times. And people say, well, have you considered supplements? Like, what supplements are you taking? And you say, all of them. I am taking all of them. I have the credit card statements to prove it. And you obsess over every aspect of your life and your environment. You get your house tested for mold and you get rid of all the toxic products that you have in your home. And you're doing all of this to no avail. And what's worse is the more effort you put into this, the more you fixate on it, the harder you try, it seems to get worse. Not only are you not getting better, you seem to be progressively getting worse and worse. And just as fast as your bank account is dwindling, your list of diagnoses is expanding. What is going on? What started out as COVID and then long COVID became also ME/CFS, and then some new symptoms came up. So they said you also have POTS and IBS and fibromyalgia. And then you got another jab, and people online are saying, well, now it's a vaccine injury. And then because of some other symptoms, it's probably also MCAS. And with each new diagnosis, you get a little blip of like, okay, maybe this is something else I can grab onto and that will give me some answers. But once again, every single one of these comes with the consistent message. You got to give it to them, at least it's consistent, that there is no cure, that what you need to do is learn to live with this. And if somehow you do get past this, oh, you actually never had this in the first place. Like, what does that even mean? And all this while, your symptoms that might have started out a little bit straightforward, even though scary and overwhelming, but relatively small list, now you have got so many and they are on a rampage and they are changing and they are moving around and they are worse on some days and better on others. And you're trying to make connections and see what causes them, what makes them better. You've got spreadsheets and flowcharts and everything you can think of. And no matter what you do, you can't seem to find any rhyme or reason to any of it. It's like they're impacted by the weather and the time of day, and perhaps your dog's and perhaps your neighbor's dog's aura. You're really not sure. And understandably, in time, you become scared of life itself because virtually everything out there seems to make you feel worse. And every bite of food that you put in your mouth seems to feel worse. And now you've got 9 diagnoses, symptoms with a mind of their own, and there are only 3 safe foods for you to eat. And you're apparently allergic to life itself. And all because you skipped orientation. And if you did, remember when I told you to bookmark it because there was a very specific point in your journey that you would inevitably decide to come back to this video. This is that point in your journey. Ultimately, it's desperation. It's I've tried everything under the sun and okay, maybe I'm willing to listen to what you have to say now because there's nothing left to try. Or more likely, you didn't skip orientation. Like for most of us, there was no orientation available, and you would have paid a ton of money to get a ticket to sit even in the nosebleeds of some sort of orientation that would have told you which direction to go. So let's just pause here and take a breath together because that was a lot. And I promise you that as bad as all that sounds, or as bad as all that has been, if you have gone through it, if you are going through it, the path out of this is much simpler. And like all great movies, this all comes together in the end, I promise you. And the incredible news is that you are actually the answer, which might sound a little bit woo woo and a little bit strange, but this is all completely backed by science, by research. We know this to be true. So I'm excited that you're here and you are now on your fastest path out of this. So this is where the spectacular news comes in. So assuming the scenario that I've just shared, oh, It was tough even just reliving it through telling it. What a journey. But assuming this applies to you, like you've done all the tests and the doctors have cleared you, no one has said there is any need for any sort of physical intervention, and it felt like a lack of answers at the moment. The reason this is spectacular news is that all of those tests coming back normal actually did likely diagnose you. They did show you what the cause of your chronic symptom syndrome was and what the path to recovery is for you. Are you ready? So, what you've got are called neuroplastic symptoms. Now, what are neuroplastic symptoms? Simply put, they are symptoms that are caused by the brain and the autonomic nervous system in the absence of any structural cause or pathologies. So all your tests are normal. And this goes by many names. Some people call them psychophysiological conditions, mind body conditions, functional conditions. Neuroplastic symptoms is what I'll use moving forward. And you might be thinking, okay, wait, what? Like nothing's wrong? And my brain is just making me sick for no reason? Yes, and also not quite. There is a reason, but with neuroplastic symptoms, it's just not something physical in the body that needs to be fixed. An important thing to understand here is that all pain and all symptoms come from the brain, all of them, regardless of the cause. And your brain and your nervous system work in tandem to keep you safe and alive. And those symptoms are their way of communicating. They are a warning system. They're trying to get your attention. They're like, hey, something's wrong or something might be wrong. Let's stop, pay attention to it, and take care of yourself and fix it. And there are two types of symptoms. Broadly speaking, there are acute symptoms, so short term ones. And these are things like you touch something hot, so you feel a burning sensation, or you break your leg and you feel pain, or you eat something poisonous and you feel nausea. So you know in that moment what's going on and what you need to address. And now with chronic symptoms, so those symptoms that stick around long term, there are some cases where these symptoms are a result of something structurally wrong in the body. But research has shown us that in the overwhelming majority of the time, with chronic symptoms, they are neuroplastic in nature, meaning it is a stuck pathway in the brain, a response of the nervous system that is causing this, and not a reaction to a communication from the body that something is physically wrong. So, why on earth would we have symptoms when there's nothing physically wrong with our body? Seems bananas. And the research is evolving quickly on this, but there's still a lot that people don't know. And people don't agree on all of it. No one fully agrees on exactly what's happening, but there is a lot of overlap in what we do seem to know. So there are different things that can set this off because we know that our brain and nervous system use symptoms to get our attention. It's like danger, danger, danger. And danger can be many different things. It might be an injury to the body, or it might be something in our environment. And whether your belief system is that we were created a certain way as humans or we evolved a certain way, I believe we all understand and can see that the bodies we are in now were not meant to be in this concrete jungle that we now live in with all the digital screens, all of the stress, AI, all the different things going on. We weren't meant to know about every tragedy happening on the planet at all times and have it all, in the touch of our hands. So, our threat assessments could be responding to that, could be actually responding to an old injury that is already healed, but that pathway in the brain is still triggering a symptom. We see this when people have, say, an arm amputated and then their arm still hurts. They have these phantom limb pains. So, how is there pain in the arm when the arm doesn't exist? It's because that pathway in the brain is still there and it's still firing and it's still creating those symptoms. Another thing could be is emotions, because we now know that our brains respond to emotional threats and physical threats in the exact same way in the brain. So this could be, some trauma from your past, some things that you're carrying around, some strong emotions you're pushing down, some things, big things, little things, a whole bunch of things accumulated in your life that has your nervous system, on high alert. And it could also be a mistake because it is a form of communication. And like all forms of communication, sometimes errors do happen. I think the most popular example that people share, I can't remember what country it happened in, construction worker stepped on a nail, went through his boot. He's screaming in pain, rushed him to the hospital. Doctors removed the boot. The nail went between his toes. As soon as he saw that there was no injury, the pain immediately stopped. So it was a communication error. The pain wasn't any less real, just the cause of it is what was different. So when hearing this, most people go through three specific phases of doubt. So, one of the things that I'd like to do with you here at orientation to save you time on your journey, save you years or decades of cycling through this doubt, is let's try and move you through them as quickly as we can right now and get that out of the way. So, the first doubt that if you are feeling this, it is normal, most people go through this, is that I don't think this is a real thing. Like, why has my doctor never talked to me about this? And I'm hearing about it on YouTube. Like, I don't see that this could be the cause of what's happening because it doesn't sound legit. And you know that I was just at a medical conference in Boulder, Colorado, put on by the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms, put on by doctors and researchers, attended primarily by doctors, and it was all science based. It was mind blowing. There are many doctors aware of this, practicing this. The research is there. It is growing, growing, growing so rapidly. But not all doctors can be up to speed on all things. So, how you get past this first level of doubt of this not being a real thing is just to educate yourself. And you need to get up to speed with the science. You need to learn more than your doctor knows, unfortunately, and then send them to this orientation so that they too can share it with people who might need it. And if you are sending this to the medical community, the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms is a great place to look at resources, research, physicians that are working in this field, and so forth. It's all coming down to neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to rewire itself. So there is a persistent pathway in the brain that is triggering these symptoms to happen. Your brain has potentially connected, normal benign things with danger, but those same pathways can be rewired through new experiences of trust and safety and calm, and the symptoms can go away. All right, so there's your first layer of doubt. So, doubt number two that you're likely going to cycle through. Okay, maybe this is a real thing. I've read about the science, it makes sense. But I don't think this is what's happening with me. That's what's happening for those other people. But, like, no offense to anybody, but like, my symptoms are like real. These aren't these like fake symptoms in your head that you're talking about. Like, my symptoms are definitely real. And you'll get to a place where you'll definitely understand this, but all symptoms are real. They all feel exactly the same. That nail in the boot, it felt the same. The pain was the same, whether the nail went through the foot or just between the toes. So there are no symptoms that are fake. There are no symptoms that are more or less real. And nothing about this being a neuroplastic condition for you delegitimizes your symptoms. You are suffering the severity of all that you've gone through. It's all very real. Your symptoms are 100% as real as they get. Another thing that people think at the second layer of doubt is that, okay, but I think I'm too sick. Like, my symptoms are really severe. I don't see how I could be this sick. Like, I've interviewed many people that thought that they were dying. It really felt like their whole body was shutting down. But all symptoms come from the brain. It creates any and all symptoms, any level of severity. So there is no level where you are too sick or too severe where this can't be neuroplastic in origin. And then a third thing that people sometimes encounter at this layer of doubt is that, okay, you said this is for people that don't have structural abnormalities or pathologies. But you're like, but I do. I actually legitimately do. So I don't think this is me or this is going to be much help for me. So it's really important to understand something called normal abnormalities. So every human on the planet, when scanned head to toe, is going to show a level of normal abnormalities. I've heard it referred to as like gray hair, but on the inside. There's going to be things going on in the brain, things in your bones, bulging discs, latent viruses, and all sorts of stuff going on. And with chronic symptoms, specifically chronic symptoms, there is virtually zero correlation between the level of the severity of symptoms and what's going on in the body. We have people whose back scans show all sorts of problematic looking stuff and they have no pain. And then we have other people whose scans are relatively fine and they are in a world of pain. So, always, of course, get everything thoroughly examined. Talk to your trusted healthcare professionals, but don't assume just because some things are showing up, it means that your symptoms cannot be neuroplastic in nature. All right. Now we're moving you through quickly. Now you're on doubt number three. So you're like, okay, yeah, this is a real thing. Read the science. I get it. Second, looks like this is probably what's happening with me. All right, here I am. But then the third doubt is like, I don't think I can change this. Like, I've been living like this for a long time. I don't see how I could possibly have the ability to rewire my brain and regulate my nervous system. Like, what does that even mean? So it's actually all very simple. Not necessarily easy, but quite simple. So that if you have chronic symptoms right now, 100% your brain and nervous system still think there's a threat. And that's the key. That right there is what you're working with. And it's figuring out what that threat is. And more so, just teaching your brain and nervous system that you are safe and that the need for those protective signals are no longer needed and they fade. And then the symptoms ease and eventually disappear. Your brain can always change and rewire from birth until the day you die. The people who are doing this, the people who are getting rid of these chronic symptoms, these severe chronic symptoms, sometimes after decades, aren't special. They aren't unique. They are regular people. Thousands of people are using these techniques to fully recover from their chronic syndromes. And you don't have to do it all perfectly. They didn't do it all perfectly, but they did it. I did it. And you can absolutely do it too. I promise you. And you don't have to figure it out alone. There is now so much support for people facing these conditions, so much information, the overwhelming majority of it completely free. There are also paid programs and coaches. If you were looking for extra support with this process and my approach resonates for you, I have a recovery program called Brain Retraining 101. And you can get most of my stuff for free online. But if you want a more structured approach with like some hands-on support from me and some other amazing coaches in the program who have been through this themselves, and I swear we're born to do this work. They are so wonderful. I'll put a link in the video description and you can check it out. It's just bite-sized videos teaching you the science, teaching you some tools to rewire for safety, for brain retraining, for nervous system regulation. We have some group weekly calls, and you would not believe the transformations that we're seeing there every week. Myself, the people on my team, we are moved to tears with just how incredible it is, how quickly and how dramatically people are getting their life back. It's really amazing thing. Whatever you do, just keep going. Don't give up. Get some help somewhere. The tools to get past this do exist. Recovery is possible. Yes, for you too. And if you found this helpful, pass it along to someone who you think might also find it helpful. Share it in an online space, bring it to your doctor. Let's just help get as many people as we can to orientation as we can so people don't have to keep suffering and spending years of their life working to get past something when we know we have the tools available right now.